Hey guys, this is another video, and in this video, I'm actually joined by the legendary Mike Carroll or Michael Carroll. For those who don't know, yeah, just take the compliment. Just take the compliment. For those who don't know, Mike is a writer known for his work, especially in 2000 AD. He's gotten to write for characters such as, of course, Judge Dredd, age creator of Proteus Vex. He's also worked on Dreadnoughts, Cadet Dredd, Judge Dredd Year One, Mayflies, Easy Money, and he's also a novelist. He's gotten to write books such as the Judges series, Quantum Prophecy, and he is the owner of the award-winning Rusty Staples comic blog. For years, Michael has been begging to come onto my YouTube channel, so I like to help out the littler guys. He's only gotten to work for some of the biggest companies in the world, so it's one of my many faults that I'm too charitable. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty well, thank you very much. I would like to refute everything you said about me that wasn't true. But the thing is, I've already forgotten it because I'm so old, I can't remember. I'm not entirely sure who I am or why I'm here, but nevertheless, I'm sitting down. It's not raining. I've got half a can of Pepsi left, so yay! No, listen, thank you very much for not just for interviewing me, which is very gracious of you, Your Majesty, but also for all the work you've done. You've done a lot of good publicizing comics here, and getting a lot of amazing interviews. I mean, Rob Williams, as I saw there, brilliant. I mean, Rob's an amazing writer, great guy. I could probably beat him in a fight. Sorry, that's how I judge other writers.
I could take him.
I could beat him in a fight. Yeah, I reckon I could take most comics creators, yeah, especially the older ones. I mean, that time I went after Stan Lee and I had a fence post and he wasn't even looking. I mean, that was I still won. That's what's important. So
yeah. That's all that really matters. I don't know how I did the introduction. We ended up talking about what comic fighters would win in a fight. Would it be all like Batman versus Superman style? You'd be on top of them, like save.
Well, it turns out my mother's name is Martha, so that kind of changed everything.
Oh my God, that's the linchpin. That's how we tie it all together.
I know, yeah. She doesn't know her name is Martha. She thinks it's Patricia, but close enough. I mean, it's still got letters in it.
Yeah, literally the same thing. But of course, like we're both in Ireland, Dublin, so we can both say that the weather is fine.
You wave out your window and I'll wave from here, and I'll see if I can see you. Yeah.
I'll throw a boomerang and it'll eventually hit your head. It'll just bust in.
No, it won't. It'll hit your head. It's a boomerang.
You haven't seen me throw, so that's easy.
You just need to throw a boo, and the boomerang is the return version.
I'll throw a stick at you, and then I'm sure that that was far better. But yeah, no. So of course, so many different things I want to discuss. I actually have one of your more newest stories here, 2000 AD, the new prog, and of course, you demanded top billing, so your story appears first.
Absolutely, yes, that's right. I won't work unless I get top billing in the best dressing room.
That's how it works. 2000 AD, especially. But your new story, Easy Money. What can you tell us about that for the millions of people watching?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's just a two-parter. That's all. So you've actually got half of it there, the first half, because that's how we do things in that order. Yes. But it is part of a much larger and very long ongoing saga where loads of little bits will eventually come together. But we could be talking years down the road. This one is about a woman who's youngish woman. She's very wealthy, from very top layers of Mega City 1, and her parents have recently died in a tragic accident. And at the beginning of the story, the family butler breaks the news to her that they made all their money because they're crime lords, and she has inherited their criminal empire, and she knows nothing apart from going shopping and being seen in the right places. So it was an idea I'd had a long time ago that I decided to finally put into motion, to show a glimpse of Mega City 1 that we don't often get to see, is the mega rich people. Mega City 1 is it's normally basically the people getting arrested for silly things. It's who's completely untouched by all the madness because their own madness isolates them. And being rich, I can speak from experience, is its own special kind of craziness. But so I had good fun with that one. It ties in with, as I say, with an overall much longer piece that sort of seeds. You plant seeds when you're writing stories like this. Judge Dredd is kind of like more like a soap opera than an action story, because it's always ongoing. You feed off each other. Different writers plant in different things. The artists put in stuff in the background, and it's all kind of everybody working, I'm going to say, towards a common goal, but not necessarily. But we're all pulling more or less in the same direction. And It's tremendously fun. It's great fun to write the stuff. But when the comics arrive on Monday morning, I get more excited if it's not one I've written, because then I don't know what's happening. If
Yeah.
it's a Rob Williams or a Kenneth Nyman or Joe Wagner Dredd, I go, yay, because that can get a little buzz then. If it's one of mine, I go, yeah, I know what's happening here. I've seen this one.
I'm sure that's the same with everyone. If they see your name on the title, they're like, I don't want this. And they just throw it out.
No, Michael Carroll again. They go,
Yeah.
I mean, this fella, they go, I mean, he's because they get so upset because I'm just so good, because I'm officially the best and I can prove it. Okay.
Modest as well. Yeah.
That's my proof. It is true because I said it is true, and I wouldn't lie because I don't lie, because I said I don't lie, and that's
And that just about concludes my interview. No, I'm only messing around. That's all I need to know. You're the best, so we can just end it there. As you can see, and you're very humble about it. Like, I mean, you made me.
I'm the most humble.
You made me like roll out a red carpet for you to come on, which was like, I mean, to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm not impressed with the quality of the red carpet. I mean, it could have been plusher. It could have been wider. There could have been more photographers. But seeing as you're young, you don't know any better. I'll let you out at this time. But my God, next time I want my red carpet delivered on a silver chalice or something.
You're far too kind, my lord. You're far too kind treating me like this.
You say, my lord. I actually am a lord, so you know.
Yeah, your kindness knows no bounds. Like I said, that's the target demographic for working for 2000 AD. You have to be some sort of form of royalty, rich. You have to be the greatest of all time. So you already have those three crossed up. But so like another question I want to ask is, how did you get into comics? Like, we're growing up, were you a fan?
Yeah. Oh, I've been a fan of comics. I mean, for as long as I can remember. I can't remember not loving comics, but I do recall specifically several. But the first one that changed me, I still have the comic, and I have the cover. And can we do a share screeny thingy?
Yes, I actually did that with Jake Lynch, and his one was far better than yours, but
Yeah, but he doesn't have this. Hold on a second.
Be careful not to show off your emails to Matt Smith, because I will try and steal his email from you. I will find him.
I can just tell you his email. I mean, it's not that big.
It's not the same reward unless I track him down. It
says hosts disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh yeah, now I have to do some more of my brilliant skills.
Yes.
Allow share screen. Boom! I just did it.
Okay.
Is it working?
Right. So this, I'm sharing Picasa.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's the cover. Can you see that there?
Yes.
That's the cover of Mighty World of Marvel.
Wow.
5 from November the 4th, 1972. I actually still have the issue. And until then, I'd read a lot of comics that were more like Tom and Jerry kind of kiddie comics, the cartoon characters and animals wearing one piece of human clothing each, like a tie or a hat or a waistcoat, this kind of stuff. And my dad was over in London for a family thing, I don't remember what it was, and he came back with comics for all of us, and this was one I got. So November 4th, I was 6.5 at that stage.
Oh yeah.
And I had never seen anything like this. I mean, for a start, Hulk, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. I mean, 2 of the Fantastic Four are still 2 of my favorite characters of all time.
Which 2? Sorry, which 2? You cut out a little bit.
Yeah, the good 2. The good 2. There's the boring woman and the boring stretchy man. Don't care about them. The Bernie man and the Rock man are good.
They're good because they do all the violence. Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah. So but that's the original cover, by the way, for that particular issue.
Wow.
Look, you can see I see where the different, it's all stitched on there and everything. That's the original cover. But yeah, so this changed me because I'd never seen this kind of adventure comic. I don't think I'd encountered many superheroes at that stage. The Marvel movies weren't out then. Nothing like that was going on.
A million years ago.
A million years ago, yeah. Well, it's 1972, so we're getting on to 50 years next year. So, yeah, blew me away. And gradually then I, go back to me, gradually I got more into the British Marvel stuff. I spent all my pocket money on them. The Mighty World of Marvel, Spider-Man Comics Weekly, The Avengers. I say I still have my first copy of The Avengers. I'll find that now. But
All of
I
these
have my
low-grade superheroes. Unfortunately, none of them ever went on to be anything huge, but
no, well, yeah, but they were good for their time. Hang on, I'll
yeah.
share again. This is my copy of the Avengers number 13 in the UK, reprinting Avengers number 16 in the US. The Old Order Change It. What I've actually got there is that's not the original. There's my original. I colored it in myself because I was quite young at the time. I didn't know any better. So it's yeah, this is the issue of the Avengers where Giant Man and Thor and the Wasp and Iron Man all leave and they're replaced by Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye.
Wow.
And blew me away. Yeah, and so I got big into British comics then when a friend of the family, I think he was like the son of my dad's mate, whatever. He gave us a whole stack of comics like Lion and Valiant and things like that. IPC comics from those days, Hotspur or DC Thompson. And I thought they were great fun. And then I got into things like Battle a bit and Action comic, and then 1977, 2008. And that was it for me. That's on the path where I'm on now. So I was 10 years old and 11 months thereabouts when that came out, and now I'm 55 and 2 months, and I'm still reading it and waiting for it. So
yeah. And so of course you talked about like 2080. So were there any like progs or strips you were especially a fan of in 2080?
yeah, well, from the very beginning, I loved their version of Dan Dare
Oh yes.
in Eagle comic, and then it was reinvented for 2018. A lot of people didn't. At the time, we loved it because we were all 10 or 11, that kind of age. But over the years, it kind of got a lot of shade thrown at it. People saying, it was a bit too over the top, a bit too superhero-y, but I still love it. And when they
Yeah.
were reprinted there a few years ago by Rebellion, I bought the 2 giant big hardback volumes and still love it. Still great. But yeah, I looked down there, but it came along in issue 2. But before long, it was quite clear that Judge Dredd was just fantastic stuff. Particularly things like The Cursed Earth by Pat Mills and Brian Bolland and Mike McMahon drew it. That was great stuff. But after that, I just Dredd it all the way. But then the Stainless Steel Rat was adapted in 2008. That was a book by Harry Harrison, science fiction writer. A kind of comedic science fiction novel. But a crook in the year 30,000. When basically humanity is spread to the stars, but everybody's kind of boring and ordinary. There's no real excitement going on. And this guy's an aberration. He's one of the very few crooks around. He's a bank robber. He's a thief and everything. And tremendously good stories. They adapted that in 2000, drawn by Carroll, and I absolutely loved it. It just hit all the right notes. So I went out and bought the book that it was based on, then bought every other book that Harry Harrison wrote. And it turned out he lived in Dublin, and I got to be very good friends with him for a long time. Then he moved to the UK. But anyway, yeah, we were still friends right on up until his death back in 2012. But yeah, Harry, because of Harry, I became a writer. So 2000 AD led to the Stainless Steel Rat, which led me to Harry, and he's the one who encouraged me to become a writer. So that's how it happens. And now I'm back to writing comics, which of course Harry Harrison used to write comics before he was a novelist. Actually, used to draw comics back in the 50s before he
Wow.
was a writer. So, it all comes back around.
Full circle.
Yeah.
And so then how did 2008 even come about?
The comic, for me, or how did it come out in general?
For you.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to have the full synopsis of how it all came about. Well, I mean,
Because I do have a full synopsis. I do know all of that. Yeah, no, for me, I'd always say to myself, I've been writing stories. I always wanted to write comics. I just didn't really know how. I didn't have the brains to actually go and find out how it was done. I just sort of thought that one day it would kind of kick in for me. But I was at a convention in around about the year 2000, I think, and I had several books published at that stage. But I met one of my comic heroes, an artist called John Higgins, and I've always loved his stuff. And we met him at a convention in Dublin and became instant friends, and we still are. And John was saying to me at the time, well, you're a writer, you should write for 2008. Well, yeah, but it's too hard, and I don't want to. I want to have written. I don't want to write. I
Yeah.
want to have the finished work done. I don't want to have the drudgery of having to do it. But eventually he said, just do it. So I sending in scripts for Future Shocks for 2008. Future Shocks are, at the time, it was a 5-page one-off standalone story. Nowadays it's 4 pages, so it's even harder to do that. But eventually, I was sending them on and off every few months for a couple of years. And eventually, I can't remember what year it was, 2006 or 2007. I'd send one particular story off to the then Tharg, well, still Tharg, Matt Smith, and he said, "Yeah, I quite like this one, but this doesn't work. That doesn't work." And I was going, another rejection. And then I had a brainwave. I thought, well, so I got back and said to him, well, if I fix those things, will you take another look? And he said, yes. And I went, I should have thought this the first time. And so I fixed them, and he got back to me and said, fantastic, send me an invoice. And I went, hey. So I said to my wife, how do I do an invoice? Because I didn't know how to do an invoice. So that particular story came about because I was, for years, I'd been a perennial judge on a short story competition. Perennial meaning every year. And every year I was one of the judges on this particular competition for science fiction stories. And I got so sick of the same old ideas, robots that turn on their masters.
Yeah.
Stories about JFK or Marilyn Monroe or Adolf Hitler, stories where someone goes back in time, all this sort of stuff. And I thought, for a laugh, you could write one story that has all of the same cliched ideas in the one tale. And I didn't get that far, but I wrote a story set in the closing days of World War II.
Yes.
Did you see this one? I won't spoil it just yet. But anyway, what happens is Adolf Hitler has the scientists build a time machine so that he can go back in time and convince his earlier self not to fight the Eastern Front or the Western Front at the same time, because that's how they lost. They spread their forces too thin. And what happens is the machine goes wrong, and he himself and Eva Braun, who end up back in prehistoric times, and they become the first man and the first woman, Adolf and Eva.
Yeah.
So, that was the Adam and Eve cliche that we're so used to. But of course, it's called Back to the Future, which is a pun on Back to the Future. But yes, so Matt said, this is great. And, well, I don't know if he said it's great, but he said, yes, we'll take it. So that came out in the end of 2007, I think it was. So probably before you were born. Oh my God, it probably was.
Oh my God, does that make you feel old? Does that make you feel old, does it? Yeah.
But you get to my age where everything either makes you feel old or cold or hungry or confused. Sometimes all 3 or 4, because there was 4 there. I said about confused, didn't I?
Yeah.
So so that's what, that one came out. And then I went, hooray, I'm in, because I'd broken that barrier. And I sat there going, why haven't Marvel phoned me yet? How come there's no one from DC knocking on the door? But turns out that doesn't work that way. You've still got to put the work in. So I was at this stage, I was still writing novels mostly. And I did a few more comics here and there. Did a lot of small press stuff. Did another couple for 2000 AD. And then Matt said to me, do you want to write a couple of he said, do you want to pitch ideas for the Tales from the Black Museum? And these are like Future Shock stories, but set in Judge Dredd's world. Yeah. And the idea is that it's one step up from a Future Shock because you don't have to be a totally standalone universe. But so I did that. And then he said, do you want to pitch ideas for Judge Dredd? And I went, yes. And,
Can I?
Yeah, and here we are. It's been a weird ride because I didn't start out as a writer. I started out as a postman, and somehow I'm here. I'm a postman, and then I became a computer programmer and systems analyst, and now then a novelist, and now mostly a comic book writer.
Story of my life happens to everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does. It does. It's just like you get to the stage where you go, oh, now I've got to be, and next thing is Emperor of the Universe. That's the week after next, I think. So yeah,
Inevitable.
I think so. It's Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure. I look it up. But so with comics is the most important thing you have to realize, of course, if you want to write comics, you have to read comics. I think that's where a lot of people fall down. I see get a lot of people send me their stories and their scripts, and I'm reading it going, these ideas are ancient. We've done this 1,000 times, and you're not bringing anything new to it. And then you realize that they just don't read. The same with science fiction or any genre. Be familiar with something. I want to be an expert in something. You have to be familiar with it. You know, if you want to write music, you got to listen to music.
Yeah.
If you want to be a champion swimmer, you've got to get in the water. That kind of thing. So yeah, it's interesting the way it works. So yeah, anyway, how do we get down there?
Yeah, champion swimmer to postman to Judge Dredd. It's the natural progression of things, you know. In all my interviews, it's so cliched. People keep on bringing up champion swimmers and postman. You'd be surprised.
Sometimes at the same time. I mean, if you go, you know, the letters do get a bit wet, but there's Ziploc bags. You know, we were not idiots. You know,
that's it. No, you have to throw it in the air and swim to the other side, try and catch it in time.
Catch it, yeah.
But of course, so Judge Dredd, how did you begin writing for the actual character of Judge Dredd? Did you pitch a series?
No. What happened was Matt just said, "Do you want to pitch some ideas?" So you pitch one off. Well, the easiest way is to pitch a one-off story. I pitched one called, I think the first one I pitched was Blood Culture, and it's designed as a one-off tale. So I just created this come with an idea that was science fiction-y, and then made it work for Judge Dredd. The idea is very simple: is that someone's been smuggling drugs into Mega City 1, and nobody knows how it's done. So there's a former judge living out in the cursed earth who she's basically a bounty hunter, and she solves problems out there, and she discovers how it's being done. There's a in the cursed earth, you know, in America they have this thing where you have the blood bank where you can donate blood, but you get paid for it.
Yeah.
So poor people often do that. It's a tragedy, but it's tragedy that they have to. But I thought, well, if you have that in the cursed earth, so all the mutants and all the people are lining up to get their blood tested, and so they see if they can sell their blood to Mega City 1. And I realized that you could get drugs smuggled inside people's blood. So so you make up an imaginary drug, which is in this case is called endorphium, as it comes from endorphins and morphine. And so they take this drug, but they've got something else in their system to suppress it so it won't affect them. Their blood gets transported to Mega City 1, and then at the other end they can reverse the process. So that's how the story comes about. And so the one-off was successful enough that Matt said, "Oh yeah, do us a few more." So I wrote some shorter ones for the weekly prog. The ones for the magazine are Blood Culture for the magazine. They're 10 pages, and for the prog they're 6 pages. And so a few of them under my belt. Then I wrote a 4-parter, and then a bit more. And it's a matter of you kind of build up your own set of characters, and then build up your own I suppose myths within Mega City 1, your own legends and stuff. And it's working pretty well so far, I think.
Yeah, it's fine enough. And like another thing I only discovered recently about Judge Dredd, I was only thinking about Dredd's a pretty horrible guy. Like all things considered, he's not necessarily a good person. And Rob Williams also touched on this. So for you, what was the biggest challenge for writing him? Because you can't exactly have him. And I know for Star Wars writers, when it comes to characters like Darth Vader, you can't have him exactly talking and yapping around. You have to have other characters as vehicles for that. Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge around for a character like Dredd?
With Dredd, I give him the absolute bare minimum of dialogue. That's for a start. But Dredd is not a good guy. He's a stormtrooper for a very oppressive regime, but he doesn't know he's not the good guy. So ultimately, it comes down to the fact that in Dredd's mind, the city is there to protect the people. He's there to protect the city. So, he will to a degree, but not always. It's more like he's a cop. No, he's more of a soldier than a cop, I think. That's probably a better way of looking at it. People say, for example, about Judge Dredd, how come we never see his face? And the fact is, we do see his face. The helmet is his face. He is Judge Dredd. He's not Bruce Wayne putting on a mask.
Yeah.
He is Judge Dredd. He's not really anybody else. So he is... Is tricky to write tricky to get it to write properly, because you've got to have him hard as nails, of course, but at the same time, there's a level of compassion in there, is that he won't let an innocent person get hurt. He will put himself in the line of fire. But at the same time, of course, he's done some Apocalypse War story where the Selves have basically, oh, hang on, I don't want to spoil it. He does a bad thing at the end of the Apocalypse War that in arguably is a good thing, but it's actually a bad thing. And one nice thing about Dredd is that Dredd's stories are told in real time. So they're set 120 odd years from now, but a year for us is a year for him. So Dredd's been a judge for 60 years now at this stage, or more than 60 years. And he ages in real time, so he's an old guy. And the stuff that happens comes back to haunt him. It's not like with Spider-Man where, for example, everybody's forgotten about the time that Spider-Man's auntie married Dr. Octopus. You know?
Yeah.
So stuff like that. And that's just one example out of thousands. So it's everything that happens in 2008 happened. Everything in Just Dredd, it's all canon. It's all real. So we have to deal with the repercussions of things that happened many years ago. So quite recently, I had a story called Echoes, which had Dredd returning to the scene of the crime of one of the things that he shouldn't have done. Well, arguably shouldn't have done, but actually did do. And there's repercussions. There's not like, you can pretend it never happened or brush it under the carpet. There's, there's a kind of a depth that gets added through time, if nothing else, to the whole series. So it's a lot of fun. One of the difficulties, of course, is you have to know this stuff. I've got to know 44 bit years of Just Dredd continuity, at least, if not know everything off by heart. I've got to know exactly where to find it. So it's that's one of the hardest parts, knowing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, the other problem there is that every 10 ideas you have for Just Dredd, 9 of them have been done.
Yeah.
And the 10th one was done by me. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so you touched on that, especially with continuity. That you're going to be some of my brilliant crossover skills. You also got to work in a story called Old Man Time, which was the sequel to a story that was written by John Wagner. How long ago?
But I think it was, 40 years ago.
Wow. And so just talk about that continuity. So you got to write that where Dredd essentially arrests a 4-year-old, which is the most Dredd thing anyone could do. Because
it is. Yeah.
He is the type of person.
The original story had a kid who is a very smart kid, because his parents bought him a teaching machine, and he basically, by the time he's 4 or 5 or whatever it is, he's the smartest person in the Her Mega City 1. He builds a bunch of atomic bombs, plants them all around the city, and threatens to blow them all up on New Year's Eve if he doesn't get his demands met. And one of his demands is that he wants to become king of Mega City 1. And
some highbrow writing.
Pardon?
Some highbrow writing. That's what you get.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is, of course, being John Wagner. John Wagner's able to do all this stuff in about pages. It's great. Albert Sherman, that's his name. And then what happens is, in the end, Dredd basically outthinks this kid, and by being pretty brutal, and then arrests him. And Albert Sherman is taken away from his parents, and he's enlisted in the Department of Justice, as in the Academy of Law, I should say, to become a judge. So I don't know, a good time, 10 years ago now, I wrote Old Man Time, which was also set in New Year's Eve, and it follows on from the original New Year's cancelled story, looking at Sherman, who's now grown up and is a judge. And that one, the grown-up version, breaks into a lab and sends himself back in time. So we get some kind of Back to the Future Part 2 stuff where the Dredd has to interact with his younger self, that kind of thing. And I must say, I had tremendous fun right now. And
it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite 2000 AD stories.
Pardon?
It's one of my favorite 2000 AD stories. It's brilliant.
Thank you very much.
I hate giving you a compliment because it makes me cold and angry, but credit where
that's okay. Your coldness and anger is the fuel to my creativity, so that's okay. You
Yeah,
know?
anger brings you joy. That's what you need for 2000 AD, right? Or when the fans are angry and crying, you're just laughing at them. Ha!
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always in every fandom you get. Every fandom you get the ones who love it so much they hate it and they want it all to die. And there's even some of that in 2008, not as much as there is in Star Wars.
Oh my
God.
God, yes.
Yeah, it was a mate of mine, Richmond Clements, who's is also a writer. He said, "There's nothing the Star Wars fans hate more than a new Star Wars movie." And I went, oh, "You're absolutely right. Spot on."
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But with Dredd, yeah, you do kind of have to love and hate the character at the same time, because he's the bad guy trying to do a good job, or he's a good guy doing a bad job. It's tricky depending on how you look at it. So I've had stories where he's an out and out hero, and there's other stories where he's an out and out villain. But I think the best ones are the best villains in any medium or any genre even, or where the reader can go, well, I mean, he's obviously the bad guy, but I kind of see where he's coming from. Back in the very early days of things like the X-Men, Magneto was clearly the bad guy. I mean, he had he was in charge of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I mean, it's kind of in the name. But the villains should never know they're villains. Everybody has to be the hero of their own story. With Dredd, that's the case. I mean, he doesn't think of himself as a hero. He thinks of himself as someone doing his job. But his actions, he's never going to do something that he knows is bad. He's going to do things that he believes are right. And even the really nasty heroes like John Constantine or John Constantine, I'm not sure which is which. They're brothers, actually. Or the Punisher, for example. They all think that what they're doing is right, or at the very least, it's justifiable. So Dredd does some horrible things, but it's for the greater good, and that's where you get the good stories. Where there's a kind of a dark area, where in Dredd's case, the law is one thing and justice is another thing, and they don't always line up. You can follow the letter of the law, but that doesn't mean it's right. It's just legal. So there's a gap where the two of them don't quite fit, and that's the if you like, that's the mine shaft that you drop down to see the mind seam you get all the good stories from, where the things just don't quite fit. I mean, for example, in the stories you've got there, Easy Money, the latest one, without spoiling it, there's a particular element to the story where you know that the person's doing the right thing, but they're doing it the right way, So I won't spoil it, but that's a lot of fun to be had doing that. A lot of fun. Some of these superheroes are very clear cut, and it's obvious which path they should take. But when it's less obvious, it's more fun. If you look at in terms of TV or movies, oh yeah, everybody prefers Han Solo to Luke Skywalker for a good reason. Han is potentially darker. Luke is always going to be the good guy, pretty much,
Absolutely, yeah, I get where you're coming from there. So yeah, like you touched on that there, and like, so Dredd, do you think that over time you've gotten a better grasp on the character of Dredd? Like, do you think you understand him more than you did before you started writing for him?
Yeah, definitely. I thought I knew how to write Dredd at the very beginning. If I look back some of the early ones, they feel like a couple of the early ones do really feel like I don't mean to be disparaging, but they feel like fan fiction, where it's clear that I'm so much in love with this character that I'm doing all the heroic stuff and all that, and making it like the story is about how great Dredd is. And it's only as I became more experienced writing the character, I realized that wasn't the way to go. It's you don't treat him with reverence. You treat him with respect, but that's a different thing to reverence. You don't treat him as he's always right. But I think I've definitely got a better handle on him. I mean, I don't write as much Dredd now as I did. There's a few more things coming up, mostly because I just don't have the time. I'm focusing a lot on writing the novellas behind me there, and the Dreadnoughts stuff and Proteus Vex and so on. But Yeah, I do have a lot of plans for Dread, but they're all on the long finger. They're all uh, down the road a bit, you know. And of course, it all depends on what Matt wants for Dread. He might want me to continue writing one-off stories, or he might want me to do a big epic or whatever he asks for.
Yeah.
I will do, you know. But I don't intend to stick with just Dread. For a long time, I was only writing Dread, really, in 2000 AD, which is great. But with Proteus Vex, I think I'm able to do a lot more imaginative stuff. I don't have to rely on someone else sticking their oar in, as it were, and changing the direction of travel. This is me and the artists, and the artists they're doing an amazing job. First of all, Henry Flint, when he created the look for Vex, which is not something I'd anticipated at all. To my mind, it was much more down-to-earth kind of look, very grizzled kind of thing. He came up with a completely alien look for all the characters. And then Jake Lynch and Jim Boswell are doing the art now, and the stuff they've done is amazing. Can't wait to I've just delivered book 3 of Proteus Vex.
Wow.
About a month ago or so, and I can't wait to see what they do with that. It's going to be, hopefully, it's going to look amazing. There's some pretty exciting scenes in there. And
Okay.
I've got Dreadnoughts, which is being drawn by John Higgins, who I mentioned earlier. And of course, John's one of my closest friends at this stage. So if I say I want to do something,
me as well.
Sorry?
Me as well, of course. Me and John basically tied best friends. Yeah.
Don't you mean he was a friend of yours? No, he hates you.
No, he said, no, that's not what he said. He said, look, you're really great. It's just schedule time, and that's why he couldn't. You know, what are you on about? You don't know.
He said, tell that little fecker that I can't. No, he didn't say that.
No, I've been called that by a lot of times by a lot of different people. So, you know, they only do it because they're jealous. You know, that's what I've been told. It's
Absolutely.
How many subscribers do they have? I have 353.
Wow, that's nearly 1 million if you round it up to 1 million. Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm so glad you understand. Not everyone is as open-minded as you.
No, actually, you know something? It's nearly 2 million if you round up to 2 million. That's even.
We could go to full mile and make it 5 million. It might as well.
No,
I like to help out.
I can't keep up with this. It's too fast for me.
Now,
how many do you need to get before you can monetize it?
1,000, I believe. And I have a video. My most viewed video is like 21,000 views because it's Kevin Conroy talking about the new Batman. So I'm milking him for all he's worth. So once I do get 1,000, I'm going to make so much money off his name. It's only a matter of time. I think I get about 7
That was actually a great interview. I really enjoyed that one. You did a good job for a change. Instead of your usual hack job that you do, you know, like this one.
You're going to make me tear up. You're too kind. Yeah.
Yes, far too kind. Yeah.
That's what happens to me most of the time, you know. Now you see, this is the bullying I put up with all the time. So he's just jealous because he doesn't have 353 subscribers. So
I'm going to see how many subscribers I have on mine. I haven't actually put a YouTube channel in years. Oh, hang on a minute. Everything's gone and locked up. Never mind.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. How disappointing.
Firefox does this thing every now and again where it suddenly decides, no, I'm not looking at me. And I go, I do actually have a YouTube channel. I used to put up little trailers that I made for my books on it. I can't remember how to get to my own channel.
And apparently I'm the one doing the hack job. Do you hear this, everyone? Yeah.
Hang on. Oh, there you go. Your channel. There you go. Do I have any subscribers at all? I don't.
I hope you don't, because if you get more than me, I'm going to cry. So just say it's 2 or something.
169.
Nice. What a number.
I think I put up something a year ago, and then before that it was 3 years ago, and before that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not good at it.
Take advice from me as a big famous YouTube influencer. The thing is, maybe don't post a video once every year. That's probably one thing you need to pick up on. But for the most part, yeah, you're flying.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time we get to the end of this millennium, I will certainly be well into triple figures. Yeah.
Yeah, be an Instagram influencer. You know, that's what every company wants. They want someone who writes 2000 AD to pitch all their products. So
that's true because we've got so many followers.
Yeah,
you do think that when you make it as a writer, that somehow you're going to become madly famous and rich.
Mark Miller did it, so how hard can it be? You know.
Well, exactly. I mean, and he's not even that Okay, he is that good. Yes, he is that good. He's so annoying. Yeah, I knew Mark before he was mega famous when he was still
Actually,
writing Dread, and I remember thinking, yeah, he's going to be huge. You could just tell he was that good. But
yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there looking at me going, I knew he wasn't going to make it.
I mean, you're still writing for 2000 AD, so how bad can it be? And you also got to create your own character, some more
Yeah,
brilliant segue skills, Proteus Vex. You
yeah.
might be amazed. I actually have the first ever appearance of Proteus Vex. It was in the Christmas prog 2 years ago or last year, was it?
That's right. Yeah.
Last year.
It wasn't that long ago in real time. It was a year and a half ago or thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I got that one there, and I was like, "Oh, it's written by an Irish guy." And then I found out what you were really like, and it just crushed all my
Of
aspirations.
course, it broke your heart and it was like that. Yeah,
I
it's
walked
hard
up,
to get past that kind of
I
thing.
walked up to you, asked you to sign it. You slapped a Sharpie across my head, tripped me up, and then walked away. Spat on me, and then just yeah.
Yeah, well, like I couldn't find a bicycle chain to properly deal the amount of damage that I needed to, you know. So,
In fairness, I didn't address you as a Supreme Lord, so I probably had a
no,
cut.
you didn't arrive with your head down and crying because that's what I want, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah. But speaking of Extreme Lord, I'll show you something now. Because see, I actually am a lord.
that's
So
what
a
you
couple
keep
of
on
years
saying, but I
ago,
don't believe you.
hang on, here you go. I'm gonna share the screen again, right? Bum, bum, bum.
Amaze me.
Lord Michael Carroll, this certificate starts the legal right to assume the horrific.
Oh,
Hang on, that's my phone. Ignore.
see,
Ignore
Lord
that.
Michael Carroll is a busy man. You see, already
Yeah,
getting calls.
it's so weird. Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
I'm
That's
sure
a
that's.
better one. There you go. That's me. Um, so technically, I am legally allowed to call myself Lord.
Oh,
Yay!
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure that buys you lots of street cred.
it's absolutely none. But
You're at Centra.
yeah,
Hello, it's me, Lord Michael Carroll. What's up?
yeah, you get oh, you get discounts in nowhere. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and they let you in nowhere, and you get no advantages and nothing for it. Yeah.
Nowhere sounds like a very prestigious club, so fair play to you.
Well, that's true. Well, it worked well for the Guardians of the Galaxy, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they actually named the planet Nowhere, which is like some brilliant
Yeah.
on the nose writing.
That was my friend Dan Ablett who invented nowhere. There you go.
Oh yes.
Have you talked to him yet?
No man, I've been trying to get. I'm
Oh,
gonna try and get him soon enough. Though he's a very good writer. So
yeah.
I'm just using you for your connections. Once this is
Yeah,
finished,
that's fair.
this is
Yeah. I'm just using you for yours, you know.
yeah. You hear that, Mark Miller? Mark Miller's my biggest fan. He doesn't know it, but I just say it
Yeah.
all the time. So if I say it enough, one day it'll inevitably be true.
It's from the what was The Hunting of the Stark by Lewis Carroll? What I tell you 3 times is true, which is how politics works. So yeah,
I need to
just
tell
keep
you one more
saying it.
time then. Mark Miller watches all my videos. Mark Miller watches all my videos. Mark Miller watches all my videos. Mark Miller
Yeah.
watches all my videos. Now it has to come true.
Affirmations, that's what it's called. Yeah, you make it true by what you're doing is you're steering the course of reality through the multiverse so that you fix on the one you want to land on. There you go.
And you can have
Doesn't
the
work.
idea for your own 2000 AD story. The boy who tried to scam Mark Miller. And it's what a brilliant title. I won't
Yeah,
even.
but it ends in a tragic death.
Yeah, double suicide, Romeo and Juliet style. Is that it?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying whose death, somebody's.
Yeah, but of course. So we also talked about Proteus Vex. For those who don't know, tell us about Proteus Vex.
Yeah, it's a science fiction's like a space opera story. It's all giant spaceships and laser blasts, and basically jetpacks and aliens. That's all you need to know. It starts off after I think it's 40 years. It opens 40 years after a massive intergalactic war has ended. The war lasted for 1400 years. It was brutal, and I mean brutal in the real sense, not in the Dublin sense where you go, "Geez, that was brutal." Yeah, so it was a very, very bad war. I mean, most wars tend to be bad. This was the baddest of the bad wars. So it ends. Story opens 40 years after this war has ended, and Proteus Vex is a guy who was a soldier during the war, and now he's basically like a troubleshooter. He's like a top agent, kind of a James Bond type agent. Someone said it described it that I can't remember. One reviewer said basically something like Proteus Vex is if James Bond and Flash Gordon had a baby and it was, I don't know, I can't remember, it was weird Guardians of the Galaxy type connection in there, this type of thing. It is, it's quite strange. There's no humans in the story. It's all aliens. So some of them are very, very alien. Some of them are almost human. What happens in this particular story is Vex has just arrested a fugitive that he's been after for a long time, or someone has been after for a long time. He's just captured this alien slug-like creature called Midnight Indication Shadow. And is it Midnight Indication Shadow? I can't remember. I keep changing her name. But Vex, when he's in the middle of bringing her back to where she's supposed to go, he is told, oh no, top priority mission, one of your bosses has disappeared. You got to find this guy. And then that leads him into this new adventure. And that kicks off a whole series of stuff. That just led into the second one, which is called a Shadow Chancellor, and the third one, which just delivered. I'm aiming for 6 books at least, if I can get away with it. But yeah, they're all big, bombastic science fiction tales, and I'm having a ball writing them. The latest one, the one I just finished, it probably, if all goes well, it'll appear in the first episode will be in the Christmas issue of this year, hopefully. And it's was a huge amount of fun to write, because things that I'd set in motion in the very early issues are now starting to pay off. Because one thing you can do when you're writing a big long series is plant a few seeds. These are clues that people don't realize are clues until later on, and they go, "Oh, that was what that was." Like for example, I'm gonna spoil one for you. I think it's in the 3rd or 4th episode of the first series. It says something. Oh no, I can't even spoil what that is because that would spoil book 3.
It all comes together. It's like, oh my god, it's gonna be a super convoluted Christopher Nolan thing or something like that, where you're just coming back to each plot point.
Well, a little trick to let you in on is that every writer writing a serial, if you like, does this kind of thing. But you have to do it in such a way. You plant all these seeds, but you do it in such a way that it's only when you reap the seeds when they grow that people go, "Oh, that was a seed." There's loads of other things that you go, "I'll put that in just in case I need to use it later." I got the idea from there's a science fiction TV show in the 90s called Babylon 5, which was kind of a Star Trek killer in a way. Well, it didn't kill Star Trek, but it was basically beat Star Trek at its own game. And it was a 5-year arc, but the writer, pretty much one guy wrote almost everything. J. Michael Straczynski.
Yes, J. Michael Straczynski.
Yeah, also brilliant comic book writer.
One of my personal heroes.
Sorry?
His Spider-Man is brilliant. I love his Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Well, if you like that, you love Babylon 5. Some of it looks a bit hokey now because of special effects as well. But what he did with his characters and the stories was that for every character, he built in several trapdoors that if the actor left or died or something, he could drop that character out and wrap up their story really quickly, just in case. Now, I've done that with a lot of my stuff. With my New Heroes books in particular, I've done that. I've had loads of paths that I set up that they could go down in case something goes wrong and they have to. But it's when the readers reading the thing, they don't necessarily see all these things because they're only pointed out to be trapdoors or seeds later on. So it's a handy thing you do, but it means you're putting a lot of work in up front. But then if you're not putting the work in, it's not going to be a good story anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, and so how did Proteus Vex come about? Like, did he say to you, "Okay, well, we want you to write this comic about this red, half white, half red alien called Proteus Vex," or did you pitch it, or just what happened then?
Yeah, I was over I went over to the Nerve Centre to Oxford to 2000 AD to actually was signing copies of the Avalanche. Ooh,
a little bit of product placement there. I just conveniently have this behind me.
Yeah. Oh well, why would I put it far away out of reach? But, so myself and my wife were over in London for a holiday, and while we were there, we went up to Oxford, and I was chatting to Matt, and I said, "Look, I really want to do something beyond Dredd." I've done a few related things, Tales of the Black Museum and DeMarco and things like that, spin-off characters, but I want to do something completely new. and he said, well, Henry Flint is coming free soon. Henry was working on something at the time, and he said, Henry's looking for something new to draw. And we knew Henry could do good aliens. So Matt said, do something like Jason Bourne in space, with spies and stuff like that. And didn't quite go down that route, but my idea for Proteus Vex didn't have any real solid ideas of how he looked or how any of the characters looked. I didn't even know how they were going to look until Henry's first pages came in. I went, that's weird. That was not how they looked in my head. But now I can't remember how I did picture them because his versions are so strong.
Yeah.
So he did a great job. He took the story, because the way he made things look, he took the story in directions that I wouldn't have thought of going. Because, for example, the look of Midnight Indicating Shame, in my original plan, she did not look like that at all. And my original one, I can't say what it was because it would spoil things, but it led to a particular storyline for her. And I couldn't do that anymore because it wouldn't work with his design for the character. So I had to completely change things. But that's not a bad thing because, as a writer, you learn to think on your feet, and someone gives you an obstacle, you use that obstacle to climb higher. If you see what I mean. When you've got a totally blank page, it's very hard to start writing. But if you've got notes that say, go there, then you can start writing, that kind of thing. So, Henry shaped the way the story was going, even though I hadn't planned it. And it's all to the better. And Jake and Jim were doing the next series, did the same kind of thing. They added elements that I wouldn't have thought of. And I really can't wait to see what they do with the next one. We kind of got the same in a way with Dreadnoughts, because even though Dreadnoughts are much more down to earth and is based in Judge Dredd's world, albeit many years earlier. The artist, of course, is John Higgins, and I wrote the first series and started sort of without knowing who was involved. And then when John came on board, I went, that completely shaped the way series 2 is going to go, because I know the kind of thing he likes to draw. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I can't wait to see what people react to that.
Yeah. And so that's a brilliant segue there. Let's go and talk about Dreadnoughts.
Yay, Dreadnoughts.
So for those people that don't know, like I said, my millions of fans, tell us about Dreadnoughts.
I'm going to find a Dreadnoughts picture.
You just have to.
Because I can.
Yeah, because he's a lord, everyone. He might not have mentioned, but he's actually a lord. It didn't come up in the conversation. But
it hasn't come up yet.
He made sure to let us know nonetheless.
Hold on a second.
Actually, while he's searching, this is a good time to plug something. This shirt here is Carlos Esquera Art Droid shirt. I actually got this from Paul Trimble. Mike, I'm sure you know Paul Trimble. He runs Enniskillen.
I know Paul very well. Paul's a good friend.
And OMAC. He said he likes me more than you. Enniskillen Comic Fest and OMAC Comic Fest. Make sure to go check that out there on Facebook. We decided to send me this for all my 2000 AD interviews, because when I interviewed Steve McManus, he was wearing this. So he said, and of course, like I said, I'm a VIP, so he decided to send it to me. So everyone make sure to go check out Enniskillen Comic Fest and OMAC Comic Fest on Facebook. But yeah, Mike, very rude interrupting us, but I suppose we'll have to let it slide. Go on. Dreadnoughts.
Where were we? Yes, Paul Trimble. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was actually, that happens to be the first one that popped up there for Dreadnoughts. Let's find up some more. That's a prototype cover for the upcoming graphic novel version. So Dreadnoughts is set in the early days of the Judges. So it's based in the same era. Hang on a second. Oh, you can't see it because I'm not sharing the screen. I will find Judges. Oh, there's some of my graphics. Oh, some of the prototype covers that nobody's seen yet. Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I scrolled too fast for people to see them.
Someone play this in like 0 speed. Try and get them all.
So that's so the idea of Judges is that it goes back to the very early days of the world of Judge Dredd. When Dredd started in 2000 AD back in 1977, the first story was set in 2099, and it was established pretty quick that Dredd had been around for for quite some time, but we never really figured out, never knew the origins of the judge system until John Wagner and Carl Scarlett gave us the brilliant Origins storyline.
Yeah,
I'll have that somewhere. And in Origins, there was a couple of panels of early judges. I think that's one, and that's it. So there's 3 or 4 panels of early judges for like the very earliest days, how the judges came about. And what I remember pitching the idea to the books editor Rebellion to do a series. I'm pretty sure I pitched it. One of us, he pitched to me, I pitched to him. David Thomas Moore's name is, to do a series of novellas set in the early days of the judges, and to show how Mega City 1 comes about from more or less present day America. So the idea is to do 5 series, 5 trilogies. The first one set in the 2030s, then the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And that will tie in with the Judge Dredd Year 1 books, and Year 2 and Year 3, which the Year 1 is set in 2079, 2080, thereabouts. So the Judges series will then lead into those ones which are already established. So we'll have 15 Judges novellas, and I'll write 1 in each trilogy. And so far, that's the way it's going. I've just delivered my my next one, which is coming out in a couple of months' time. Do you want a top exclusive reveal of the title?
Yes.
It's called Necessary Evil.
Wow. Exclusive news. I'm going to pimp the hell out of that. So exclusive news given by big famous 2080 writer. But so Dreadnoughts Necessary Evil.
Yep, that's it. And I'm going to show you the cover, or a prototype cover, but before I do anything, I need to blur out the background, the text that spoils the plot of the back in the blurb.
Wow, big Proteus Vex in the background dancing. Is that the big reveal? I can see right.
How did you know?
I can see right through it. It's so common. There's so many cliches in interviews like this. It's just Proteus Vex has been behind it the whole time.
So I'm going to share screen again.
Is it blurred out fully though? Because I don't want, if I get sued,
No, you'll be fine. There it is. So that's the cover for Necessary Evil, or at least probably the final cover, close enough to it. Can you see that there? Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, the United States of America, 2051 AD. So this is the 2050s, and there's a couple more books on the way. I can't say who they're by. And then we go into the 2060s, and then wrap it all up in the 2070s. And that's really looking forward to writing the last few. But yeah, this has been fun because I'm not just writing the one book in the series. I'm kind of shepherding the other writers, and it's it is a lot of fun, but it is hard work. The other writers are great, but every writer wants to go off on their own. And comic book writers in particular, but no, speaking to writing, comic book writers writing novels is like trying to herd cats. You know, they just go where they want to go. It's great fun.
And has it been hard, like continuity wise? Because if this is like Judges in their prime, and like the start of the Judges, you can't have something like some big world-ending threat that would never have been brought up. So was that continuity hard?
That's brilliant, actually. Very well asked. That's a good interview question. Seriously. That's top stuff. Yeah, it is hard because we can't have something like an asteroid crashing into the mid-center of America or something like that, and then have no one in Dredd's time. So we have to deal with what's already been established. And what we've done is, one of the aspects of the Judges series, and this kind of ties into Dreadnoughts, is not to really focus on the big world-shattering events. So creating a bomb that could blow up the entire solar system or whatever. It's going to be more cops on the street. In 2012, then there was a movie called Dredd, which came out, starring Carl Urban. You're too young to have seen that.
Oh, yes, I never saw that film.
Heard of it, yeah.
Oh, I only heard of it. Yeah. Yes, correct.
So in that movie, it's not about something that's going to change the whole world. It's basically a cop story. It's a day in the life of Judge Dredd. And that's mostly what we've done with the Judges series, and to a degree with Dreadnoughts. So the Judges, as I say, are set, the first series set in the 2030s and then 40s and then 50s. Dreadnoughts it opens in 2035 and it stays there. And if we go to go back to Dreadnoughts.
And so essentially someone gets kicked out a window, the same as in the film. That's how it ends. Just someone gets kicked out in slow motion.
Oh, sure, you have to have that in every story.
That's how it works. At the ending of Proteus Vex spoiled, is it?
Every book ever ends with someone getting kicked out a window. Yeah. Hang on a sec.
In slow motion. In slow motion.
It's always slow motion, of course. Yeah. I mean,
it can't be regular motion. It doesn't work as well.
So this is the opening page for. So it says, back in spring of 2025, we could almost feel the nation crumbling around us. And we see the rioters reflecting the judge's helmet. For years, the country's best political analysts had warned us that disaster was inevitable if we didn't alter our course. So we replaced those analysts with others willing to provide more palatable answers. And then we were starting to discover the problem still existed. That kind of sums up the whole series, is that the judges are there to solve the problems that are created by the current administration. And when we say the current administration, I mean, Trump, he's not there anymore, but he was current when I wrote this. America was kind of falling apart from our viewpoint. And if you extrapolate what was happening back in 20, whatever it was, when I started writing these books, it was clear that things were not good. When you have a country that's ruled by the rich, making decisions for the poor, that's never going to end well for the poor, right? And every country is ruled by the rich making decisions for the poor. So, so the idea is to create the juries are created as a way to redress the balance. But of course, every system that lasts that long is ultimately going to be corrupt. What was that line from The Dark Knight? You either die a hero
or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Exactly. And it's like with a movie series, you either stop at the second one or you live long enough to make a crappy third one.
Yeah.
For example, The Dark Knight Rises, or Spider-Man 3.
What a film. That's one of my guilty pleasures. I love that film so much, Spider-Man 3. Because I remember I was like watching when I was like 8 years old, and it was like friggin' Sandman fighting Green Goblin with Venom in the background, and then Spider-Man. Oh my god.
Yeah, it works when you're a kid, but it doesn't work when you're an adult. But
Batman Forever, which is like the best Batman film of all time.
It is. Batman Forever is way better than people think it is. But Batman and Robin is the worst movie ever made.
How
and every couple of years I watch it to go, it can't be that bad. And it is.
How dare you? The back card is like, oh my god, the back credit card, because that's what you need. That's some realism in it. You wouldn't understand, but as a writer, you see, I understand that it's a metaphor for the fact that he's rich. You see?
Oh yeah, no, it all makes sense now.
Yeah,
I was going to say the penny has dropped, but in this case, it was a euro. It was a pound that dropped.
See. No, yeah, but it's one of those kind of artistic films where you have to have a specific understanding.
Yeah, well, I need to go away and rethink my entire life now. The scales have lifted from my eyes. I think I'll go and become a missionary or a hermit or something like that.
It's all part of my duty. That's what we do on this channel. That's what we do.
You saved me. Yeah. No
by talking about George Clooney's back.
I was going to go off and join the First Church of Galactus. But no, now I'm going to join the First Church of Daniel Fay, who is my new hero and savior. Well,
join the club, man. There's a long list of creators that are behind you. But yes, of course, I'm not sure how we ended up. Actually, what is your favorite superhero film of all time?
Oh, good movie. Good movie is. Don't know.
Thinking cap on.
I love all the Marvel stuff. I've got all the Marvel stuff. I even have things like Man-Thing, which I still can't watch. It's
I'm sure it's a little bit dated.
I think we started watching it and got about half an hour and went, oh god, this is awful, turn it off. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. And that was about 10 years ago. And we still haven't watched that. I don't know how long ago it was. I absolutely loved Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm going to be obvious, and I'm going to pick Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
As the best superhero movie. for a long time, I would have said that Superman the movie was the best superhero movie. I adore 90% of that film, and the ending just annoys me.
Christopher Reeve's one, or the Brandon Routh,
Yeah,
or Henry Cavill.
yeah, Christopher Reeve, yeah, from 1978. Remember? So I was 12 or 13, whatever it was, when I saw that, and that film had a stronger impact on me than Star Wars even. Absolutely loved it. But I love that film. I have to say though, Avengers Endgame had a payoff like nothing I've ever seen. I've probably seen maybe 5 or 6 movies at this stage, maybe more. But seriously, we went to the screening for Avengers Endgame, the midnight showing, the first night, but we'd also already booked for showing the following day, because, or 2 days later, whatever it was, because I basically booked as many as I could to make sure we got seats in one of them. But so when we watched it the second time, myself and my wife, we'd already seen it, so we were watching the audience as much as we were watching the film, and their reactions were electric. It was incredible. There's a couple of guys sitting next to us who were maybe 18 or 19 years old, and they were like, yes, jumping up in the seats, and they were cheering, and they looked like real hard, real tough guys, you know. And we do comics and all that, to create myths like that, to create those legends, to see, I mean, I'm sure we see it now, the scene where Thor is being basically just about to be killed by Thanos, and then the hammer comes in out of nowhere and whacks him in the head, and then the hammer zooms back and we see what happens to it.
Jar Jar Binks at the
That's
helm.
Jar Jar Binks.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yes.
You were going to high five me over the camera there, were you?
Jar Jar Binks, best character ever. You know, goddamn, I love him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he told me he loves you too. It's mutual. Yeah.
We are all Jar Jar in a sense. We've been, the viewer have been Jar Jar the whole time. You've been Jar Jar. My camera is Jar Jar. This channel is Jar Jar.
Well, you know, J.J. Abrams. Now you know what the J.J. stands for.
You see, it's all comes together. Jar Jar is the key to all this.
That's right. Yeah.
It's always been him.
Well, so so Avengers Endgame is a brilliant movie. It works really well, and I would love to know what it's like for someone who's not seen the other movies. Does it have the same payoff? Probably doesn't, but it worked for me. So I love that. But if I was to pick a standalone superhero movie that was the best, or more or less standalone, I'll tell you, I absolutely loved Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
really like that. A lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was brilliant. Black Panther was fantastic. We went to see Black Panther special outdoor showing in London a couple of years ago, and it was in Somerset House in London, so it was a big, posh area, a big courtyard, and it pissed rain. I mean, I'd say pissed. Okay.
Yeah.
It bleed and lashed rain.
These videos don't make money anyway. Don't worry, you know.
Oh yeah, that's true. So it rained, but it was still brilliant. We were all sitting there getting drenched, but the buzz at that screen was fantastic. So I love Black Panther. I cannot wait to see the next one. Though it's going to be heartbreaking to see it without Chadwick Boseman there. But still, what about yourself? What's your favorite?
Oh my God, I was hoping you'd never know many. There's so many. I don't know. I've always liked Dark Knight, of course. That's the one. One I've always enjoyed that not many other people have talked about. X-Men First Class. That was actually very good. I enjoyed that.
Great, fantastic film. Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, but that was like, that's obviously up there. There's a few more, like I said, Spider-Man 3. I've always loved that. And the thing is, Daredevil. They like the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
I love that movie.
Colin Farrell as Bullseye, and I've talked about him so much on this channel. You wouldn't believe. I bring him up out of nowhere, but Colin Farrell as Bullseye is the greatest casting choice in the history of ever.
Oh yeah. Sorry, ignore that.
The Lord, Mike Carroll.
My wife will get it. Yeah, we have a great story about the Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, which I didn't realize. A friend of mine, John Vaughn, told me the director's cut is really, really good. But the reason the director's cut exists is because that was the original cut of the movie. It was 2.5 hours, and the studio said it's too long. We wanted to cut it down to 2 hours, and the director went, "No, I don't want to." But they made him do it because if your movie is 2 hours long, you get extra showings in the cinema every day. So you can show it every 2 hours, so showing every 2.5 hours. More showings means bigger audience, which means bigger box office figures on the opening weekend, and that's all they cared about. So they
Ah,
butchered their movie to do that. And not
wow.
terrible. But I think it's a great film. It's very underrated. And there's a lot of people now who are kind of discovering it and going, I thought this was supposed to be rubbish. But it's actually really good.
Colin Farrell was so good, goddamn.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell, one of my favorite actors. I'll watch just about anything he's in. Like
He
Seven
is,
Psychopaths, which have you ever?
oh,
That's
yeah.
my
Love
that's
that
one of
movie.
my favorite films of all time. I absolutely love it.
I've never seen Colin Farrell be anything but brilliant. He is a great actor. But he's not my favorite Irish actor.
Like get
That
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson. How did you
No,
know
I
that?
never would have guessed.
Have I told you that before? No, wait, haven't I? No.
No,
He
no,
is
no. It's just it has
he,
to be. Like I mean, I think he's almost everyone's.
he is actually my favorite actor.
Colin Farrell for
Totally.
me just about trumps just a little bit though. Um,
No, yeah. Well,
Save Brendan
I've met Colin
Gleeson.
Farrell in real
Why did you
life,
say
and
that
I met
name?
Brendan Gleeson, and I know which one would beat me in a fight. Brendan Gleeson could beat me in a fight, but Colin Farrell couldn't. So therefore, Brendan Gleeson's the better actor.
You met Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell.
Yeah, and not at the same time, different times. Yeah.
When?
Well, I met Brendan Gleeson at the thing 12, 13 years ago, I think it was. And Colin Farrell, oh yeah, there was a play in town that Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon were in, and we went to it. It was a big charity event, and we went along to it, and Colin Farrell was in the audience, and he was sitting like 2 seats in front of me. And then during the interval, I met him at the bar, and I was talking to him. They were actually just finished filming Daredevil at the time. So
Was he bald? Was he actually bald?
no, his hair had grown back by that stage. It was real tight though. But
Oh my god! I wish he had the little etched into his head, and he just brought it for
yeah,
the crack. And then he wore the big trench coat. That would have been peak.
yeah. No, because I met Colin Farrell. I didn't meet Bullseye. You see, there's the thing.
Well,
And besides, Bullseye was too busy making Toy Story.
they're practically the same thing. Who doesn't love Bullseye?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he can throw a peanut and choke someone, and he was Tim Allen's horse. So there, Oh no, he was Tom Hanks's horse. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's stop making these obscure Bullseye references.
that's right. Well, yeah. Can't think of
No,
any more, but there you go.
you just sit there, Bullseye like the Bullseye. That's some of
Like
it.
the sweets.
Yeah, that's some
And
of
there was a
the.
TV show called Bullseye years ago. It was a game show.
Yes. Someone
It was
brought
way
that
before
up
your
when I
time.
talked about Bullseye and something. He's like, "Do you mean this '80s show?" Or so I was like, "Of course I meant that."
The one with Jim Bowen. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, that one. Yeah.
But of course, I think we've been talking about, we've gone so completely off topic. Let's come back to 2000 AD. Who was your
Oh yeah.
favorite 2000 AD character?
Favorite? Well, after Dredd, it would be the Stainless Steel Rat, and then Strontium Dog.
Of course.
Stainless Steel Rat is the one I mentioned before, created by Harry Harrison, the super cook from the future. But the Strontium Dog is just brilliant. It's one of those rare stories where it's they're almost you could swear they're written today. It's so well done. It's a great metaphor for the human condition, I suppose.
Yeah.
Johnny Alpha is a hero through and through, not because he wants to be, but because he has to be. No one else can do this dirty job, and he will do it. He's a brilliant character. But I think that's why John Wagner is my favorite comic writer. He created these Dredd and Strontium Dog and Robo Hunter. You probably haven't read Robo Hunter. Brilliant stuff.
I know of Robo Hunter. I don't think I've read some of the more like original stuff.
The earliest stuff is, well, it's all good, but the earliest stuff is fantastic in particular. But so Dredd #1. Then I'll leave aside Stainless Steel Rat because it did come from somewhere else. But then Strontium Dog. And beyond after that, pretty much most of the stuff I've loved. There's been a few things over the years that have not doing anything for me. I just don't feel not getting the vibes. But an awful lot of it is most of it is brilliant. There's no other comics publisher has had such a good hit rate, I think. You know, of good stories to forgettable stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just, and so another fanboy question before I get to the biggest fanboy question. Who's your favorite Dread 2000 AD villain? Mean Machine.
Well.
Gotta be, man, Mean Machine Angel, because he's such a, you see, the fact that, he twists his head is a metaphor for the fact that he can twist his head and run into walls. You probably didn't catch on to that. I think it's a bit, it's kind of an artistic thing, like one of those German.
Well, when my time machine's working, I'm going to go back in time and beat up the person who taught you the word metaphor. Yeah.
No, you don't understand. In saying that, that's a metaphor for time travel. So good job there.
Are you sure it's not a simile?
What? Oh my God, don't even. I just got PTSD. I need that for my English test next week. I am not. Oh my God. Thanks for that. Thanks for reminding me.
Do you want to know the secret to know what's a metaphor, what's a simile?
I did.
Similes are similar. That's how you know.
I'm actually gonna remember that because I have my test next week.
That's for. That's called a metaphor. No, it's a simile. No, it's a metale. It's a semaphore. No, semaphore is when you have flags. Yeah, I can't remember how it goes. Wait, how do we get there?
English test. It's just so natural. Actually, he might be around my English teacher, so be careful what you say. He could have eyes everywhere. But of course,
yes,
he probably does actually. But yeah, no. So of course, who's your favorite Dredd villain or 2000 AD villain?
Yeah. So many of them characters are not actually villains, but they should be. Have you read Kingdom by Jan Abbott and
No.
It's brilliant. The lead character is this guy called Gene Hackman, named after the actor Gene Hackman, and he's arguably a villain, but he isn't necessarily a villain. So I do like that. You could argue that Dredd is the best villain.
Yeah.
I quite like Judge Death, but for a long time it was kind of done to death. It was too overexposed. But in recent years, the newer stuff, the Dead World stuff, has been brilliant. Quite like that. It's hard to pick a particularly one villain, single them out. In Strontium Dog, there's a character called Max Bubba, who I still absolutely hate. And wish he was real, so that way I could wish he was dead. But you have to read it to know why, and I'm not telling you. You're going to read these one day. Strontium Dog stuff, and it's wonderful stuff. I still get angry about that character, which is good because that's a sign of a good bit of writing. That was Joe Martin and Alan Grant working together. I mean, when they worked together, it was magic, pure gold, So Max Bubba would be one of my favorites. He really, really angers me. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other ones now. No, that's all I can think of offhand.
Yeah,
but a good question. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And so now this is the biggest fanboy question of all time, and this has been a preempt for this one question. If you could, I asked this to all my 2000 AD interviews. If you could see two 2000 AD characters fight, who would it be and why?
Okay.
You better.
Right. You got me there.
You've had quite a few answers. You've had quite a few. I believe.
Okay, I have an idea. But it'd be a very one-sided fight. In the very early days, there was a character called Mach 1 who was basically a sort of a cyborg, I suppose, a secret agent who has his powers enhanced. He had a computer built into his brain, that kind of thing. I love those stories back in those days, but he died very sadly. The character playing the guy died, and they couldn't recast it. It was very sad. But so Mach 1 died, but I would have liked to have seen him going up against some of the other characters. If they didn't have the idea of the shared universe then, not really, or it's not very strong, but the original Mach 1 stories were set in the future, which was like 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 20 years, depending on what story was. And they could have done a crossover with the story called Invasion, which was big at the time, which is about Britain being invaded by the Volgans, basically the Soviets, in other words. And I would have loved to see Mach 1 suddenly turn up in that story. That would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, if I had to pick one properly for modern characters, I'd like to see Dredd go up against someone like who would be a good one? I've had to Strontium Dog because they've done that.
Have you? I remember I asked that at
No.
some panel. Who'd win in a fight between Judge Dredd or Strontium Dog?
Yeah, it's been done, and they did it the way they always do with these crossovers. They both kind of win, depending how you look
Yeah.
at it. But yeah, I'd like to see Dredd go up against Gene Hackman from the Dan Abnett series. That's just so good. It would
Full
be great.
circle.
But Proteus Vex versus Strontium Dog, there's a good one.
Ah, yes.
Because I could write it and then I get to write Strontium Dog again. So,
Yeah, you see, you could cheat in there, and of course, Zombo just has to make an appearance because
I see. Yeah, Zombo. I love Zombo.
I love Zombo as well, man. It's just freaking.
Yeah. Have you read Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk stories?
I've been keeping up to it. I believe I've read a few. I haven't read the full thing, but I've been on it now and again.
They're brilliant. They're brilliant. Well, my wife got me the Marvel Unlimited thing for my birthday, so I've been catching up on tons of Marvel stuff I haven't read, but it has loads of Al's Loki stuff and the Hulk, well, tons of them in total. But it's brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
But I knew Al before he was even famous, before he was even writing Judge Dredd.
Wow.
Now look at him,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he didn't create Proteus Vex, so
no, he didn't. But he did create Zombo, you say.
yeah. Well, but so before I get to my last few questions, another thing we didn't even talk about. I can see it in the background up there, Rico Dredd, which was another character you worked on.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Rico is I'll hold this up to the camera, and for those watching in black and white, tough.
Tough break, deal with it.
Yeah, so Rico is this is a novel, by the way. It's a text-only graphic novel. It's Rico's Judge Dredd's brother, and he first appeared in 2008 Prog 30, drawn by Michael Mann, written by Pat Mills, and that was the first story that really gave us a background on the judges, and where we learned that Dredd had been on the streets for 20 years at that stage. So Dredd's a clone. We didn't even know he was a clone until that story. So Dredd's a clone. Rico's his clone brother, and Rico goes bad. But
he's a baddie.
He's a brilliant. It's a great trope of having the
evil twin.
Give the hero a parallel. Sorry, yeah, the evil twin. Exactly, yeah. I think literally what he is, the evil twin. And he, I can't remember whether I pitched the idea or someone else suggested I write it, but I wrote this one, Rico Dredd, the Third Law, and then it did quite well. It's just a one-off, a little book, and it was an ebook only release. But after a couple of years, they came back to me and said, can you write 2 more? And I did. And so this is the whole lot. One great big huge book. How many pages is it? 1 million. No, wait. I rounded up again. 460 odd pages. So
basically a million.
Basically, practically dairy. Exactly. So it's the story of Rico Dredd, but it's told from his point of view.
Yeah.
And he's a bad guy, so he paints himself in a good light. He tells, yes, he was a corrupt judge, but really it was the system that he was trying to fix in his mind, or he's trying to convince the reader that that's what it's about. So I had a huge amount of fun writing that, and it's not necessarily the true story of Rico Dredd, but it's the story that he is relating. So he's basically the classic unreliable narrator. So yeah, tremendous fun. And one of the things I enjoyed about writing that was that I was able to. There's a couple of scenes in that book that are also told in Judge Dredd, my story for Judge Dredd Year 2, The Righteous Man, where they have the same scene from 2 different points of view. So that was a tremendous. And I think nobody else has actually spotted that I did that yet. But
I spotted it.
So yeah, of course you did, because you told me there. When I told you, yeah. No, I remember that. Do you remember that time we were talking about Rico Dredd? I remember telling you about that.
Yeah, that's a metaphor for the fact that you told me about it.
I think it's a simile.
No. I think I know. Someone told me that simile means sing. Oh, it doesn't even matter. I can't remember. It's not my problem.
Rewind the video. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I will find it. You think I watched these? These aren't my problem anymore. No,
once it's out there, it's gone for good. Yeah, I don't read these books again. I have no idea.
They're not my problem. We're in the same mindset. But of course, coming off Rico Dredd, there's another character. I'm not sure if you ever got to work him, but of Judge Joyce.
Yes, I created Judge Joyce's son.
Yeah, so tell us about Judge Joyce, because I know you did get to do a little bit of work on Judge Joyce. He's like an
Yeah, so
Irish judge.
Judge Joyce was originally created by
Garth Ennis.
Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, and I think it was Wendy Simpson was doing the art of the color. But either way, yeah, that back in the 90s, and
A million years ago.
Joyce comes from Murphyville, which is where Ireland is basically turned into an Irish theme park, and written by Garth, drawn by John, or drawn by Steve, and they. Let's be fair, they were taking the Mickey out of the mix, as it were.
Yeah.
And it hasn't aged well. It's very racist stereotypes, about the Irish. And the judges were all drunkards and all that sort of thing. But because it happened in Judge Dredd's story, it is effectively, it's canon, so it's real. So I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
At some point, I didn't have to. I chose to. So I gave us, after the Day of Chaos storyline where Meg City 1 is almost completely destroyed, lots of judges are killed, I decided that, so that was all, John Magner wrote that. And we were writing, me and Rob Williams and Al Ewing were writing the follow-up stories. And I decided that Meg City 1 would get judges in from other cities and retrain them. So I brought in Judge Fintan Joyce, who's the son of the original Judge Joyce. And
Wow.
I established that the original Judge Joyce is dead by that stage.
Just killed him.
Yeah, I decided he was dead, but there's a reason for it. So then I was able to tell the story of how he died and what resonance that has, and brought Dredd and Joyce back to Ireland.
How did he die?
We had to move on from the Murphyville type idea and the real Diddley Irish approach. I do not like the whole Shamrocks and Shillelaghs and Diddley Idol and all that sort of stuff. I hate that.
Yeah.
Never sits well with me. It always feels like we're putting ourselves down, So I was able to move on from that, and it was good fun to write. And I do have more planned for young Judge Joyce at some point, though he hasn't showed up now in a couple of years.
So how did good old Judge Joyce die? Car accident?
Well, I could tell you that, but it spoils the story.
All right, fine. I'll have to go decipher it myself. I'll just find out.
There's a story called Blood of Emeralds that I wrote, and Colin McNeil did the art, and Colin's always been one of my favorite writers, our favorite artists. I actually named the hero of my New Heroes series, the main hero, after Colin Wagner, it's called Colin Wagner after Colin McNeil and John Wagner.
Yeah,
so,
that's a metaphor for the fact that they're about 2000 AD writers and they're about 2000 AD creators.
Exactly, yes, and I wanted it to give a little nod to that. And so what's the point? Oh yeah, so Blood of Emeralds, it's a 6-part story, and it kind of tied up the original Judge Joyce's storyline in a way, but set things going for the new Judge Joyce. And I'd like to go back to the new Judge Joyce again one day, but I was able to kind of patch over what I thought was some of the worst excesses of the Diddley Idol bit that Garth and Steve did. I mean, they did a lot of fun writing it, but reading it now, it didn't age as well as some of the other stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pick on him because I sort of know Garth and I knew Steve very well, so they were friends. I mean, I knew when they were doing this one, but yeah, that one didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, of course. And so, like, my last couple of questions, because I've taken up so much of your time. Have you noticed improvement as a writer? Like, do you look back at some of your earlier work and think, no, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I could have done this?
Yeah, I definitely am. Well, I mean, I've been writing full time for 22 years. And my first book came out in 93. My first short story was published in 88, thereabouts. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. I think if you're ever looking back and going, wow, this stuff is brilliant, then you're in trouble, because that means you've stagnated. I can look back at something I wrote more than 5 years ago and I go, oh, this is not good, or it's not the way I would do it now. But yeah, sometimes you read something that you wrote and you go, this is really good, because you forget writing it. But most of the time you're going to go, oh God, what was I thinking? I should have done this, I should have done that. But you've got to be pragmatic about it as well. You can't actually go back and change it. So, you can say, okay, well, some of the stuff I wrote wasn't great. I have to live with it. It's there. That's one of the disadvantages with writing, is that people can look back at books you wrote 20 years ago and go, but they're rubbish. Whereas, if I had an ordinary job, people are, if I was working in a shop, people wouldn't be looking back at the way I used to serve the customers 20 years ago and go, oh, he was terrible at that. He didn't know what he was doing. Look at him putting the bottles in on top of the bread, that kind of thing. So all of your mistakes as a creator are out there for the world to see forever.
Yeah.
So you have to stand by and stand on what you've done, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we know our work is going to be judged. If we don't want it to be judged, we shouldn't put it out there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely see where you're coming from there. But like, is there much of a difference between writing for a comic and a novel? Because you do both. So like, what's it like writing for both?
It is a lot different. With novels, I control the pace completely. I can decide how many pages are in a chapter, that kind of thing. In 2000 AD, for Judge Dredd, there's always 6 pages in a chapter, or 10 for the magazine. So every 10 pages or 6 pages, there's got to be a cliffhanger ending to get the readers to keep coming back, or something intriguing to make them want to keep reading. If I'm writing the book, I can make the chapters really long or really short. I can put in all the cliffhangers where I want. So I control the pacing much more. But then with comics, you've got things like, hang on, I'll pick up a comic at random. An old copy of Eagle.
You just have it on you conveniently. Oh, speaking of which, here it is.
Yeah, here's one. Here's Eagle, Dan Dare story. So here's the weird thing with comics, is that if someone will open this, and you can't see this both pages at once. So 2 pages. Whoa, yeah. So the reader opens up 2 pages, and they can see out the corner of the right what's happening on the right-hand page, even though they're reading the left-hand page. So the writer has to be, and the artist, of course, but they have to know that that's going to happen. So they've got to keep in mind that someone will pick up a comic book and go, oh yeah, what's this? And they'll flick through from the back. So if you've got a big reveal that shows that Superman is turning into a werewolf or whatever, they'll see that before they get to the bit. So the surprise are spoiled. That can happen in comics much easier than in a book. So you have to bear that in mind, the way the story is paced and related. Plus, of course, with a comic, my job is to tell a story to the other creators. So my job, I tell the artist and the letterer and the colorist, if there is one, what the story is going to be. They tell it to the readers. So their job is much more important than mine in that regard. If I mess up, they can fix it. If they mess up, the readers will see it. So that's why if the artists, if I give the instructions to an artist and say, oh, this should be an over-the-shoulder shot, or it should be a bird's eye view looking up at the building or whatever, and they think, no, there's a better way of doing it, they're going to be right, because they'll have a much better idea of which way to do this. So my script is more of a serving suggestion than an actual blueprint. But at the same time, of course, if the artist suddenly decides to go off and completely do their own thing, and that has happened to me, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can name 2, I won't, but I can name 2 writers who are both good friends of mine, or 2 artists, good friends of mine, who have both done that. Just decided, I know it says, the script says to go there, but I'll draw my own scenes and see what happens.
But why would they?
And then I give it back to him and make him rewrite it.
Why would they listen to you?
Well, why should they listen to me? Yeah, I mean, what do I know? But yeah, I know there's another thing that happened as well. This is a weird one. Not blaming anybody, but the weird thing happens that I wrote a Dredd short stories one-off for a 6-page, and in my mind it was almost a horror story, but the artist did a kind of cartoony look, so it's almost comedic. It was a very dark story, very darkly comedic, I suppose, when I wrote it, but it was much more emphasis on a horrible situation. But it was, the artist did a kind of cartoony type artwork, and it was all colored in kind of bright colors, where it should have been much darker at nighttime and that. So it completely changed the tone of the story, even though all of my words were intact. Wow. So there's something you can see coming. So that can happen, and it's nobody's fault. And the editor knows best usually. So but so you get things like that. How do we get there? I never know how I got anywhere in a conversation.
You just go off on some tangent, talk about champion swimmer similes, Colin Farrell's Bullseye. It's perfect interview. But my second last question, if you could do a dream comic maybe with any character or any 2000 AD character, what's a comic with character you'd like to do? Who's your dream character?
Any character at all, from anywhere, any character, super.
Sorry, you're actually cutting out a little bit right now. Just when you're giving the big reveal. Okay, yeah. So sorry, who is it?
Superman.
Wow. Why Superman?
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Superman,
yeah.
yes, good, yeah. I love Superman, but I think nobody has written him as brilliantly as I would. I think that's
yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I do. I love Superman. I'd love to do a Superman novel to start with, but I'd love to do comics. But I think that would. Oh, we're getting your internet connection is unstable. That's because we've been on for 82 hours.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a Superman comic book series that was based in the same universe as the Christopher Reeve movies from the 70s and 80s. Oh, well, the good ones, the first two. I love the idea of doing that. And then I think actually someone has done that or is about to do it, but it's a great idea. But just kind of do that kind of thing. Those characters, it was a lot of fun. Those movies are great fun, the first two. I always have to qualify them with that. But yeah, I'd love to do Superman, but I would also love to do Spider-Man and Nova from Marvel.
Really?
Is
Nova?
probably my number one favorite character. Yeah.
Wow.
Love Nova. But I particularly loved when back in the 90s when Nova was with the New Warriors. The original incarnation of the New Warriors was fantastic. And they kind of got watered down over the years, unfortunately, because of various reasons. But the first run of the New Warriors, 75 issues of pure gold. Absolutely fantastic stuff. My favorite superhero comic ever.
Yeah, brilliant. Of course.
Yeah.
Nova, and of course, Brendan Gleeson plays Nova just because he can. Colin Farrell plays Spider-Man, just because.
Yeah. Oh, well, Colin Farrell as Spider-Man wouldn't be a bad thing.
Actually, that'd be good. Yeah, no, who else could Colin Farrell? Colin Farrell would probably be able to play almost anyone. Brendan Gleeson as well could definitely. Brendan Gleeson should play a villain just cause.
He should be the Kingpin.
Oh my God, yes. Just Brendan with a shaved head. We're correct. If he can play Donald Trump, he can play anyone.
Brilliant. Sorry?
If he can play Donald Trump, he can play anyone.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I mean, he's just the best. He's the best actor in the known universe, but yeah, no, he is better than me. Yeah, he is.
Yeah. You're very gracious saying so. He's one of the best, definitely.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Of course.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, maybe there, Brendan Gleeson there. Yeah. Let's not get bogged down in the theatrics of it all. But yeah, so of course, this is one question. What's your favorite film of all time? Before I get to my final question.
Oh God, favorite film of all time, Raising Arizona.
Oh, is the one with Nicolas Cage?
Yep. Nicolas Cage, Holly Hunter, absolute solid gold. If you've not seen it, do. Oh, wait, is it appropriate for you age-wise?
Oh, I'm a big boy.
It should be.
I'm a big boy.
It should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 13 3/4. So what you're talking to,
No way. Hey, whoa, hey! I didn't know you guys play with the big guys here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Raising Arizona. If I had to, you're forcing me to pick one. That's the one.
Absolutely. And so my last and final question: if anyone was
looking, and final, wow, that's two.
Yeah, well, that was 2 questions ago. So, I automatically forgot about it. It doesn't even register on me. I'm just going from strength to strength. If anyone was looking to get into comics, what advice would you have for them?
Oh yeah, first advice is read comics.
Yeah.
If you don't read, you can't write. But that's true for books. I teach a lot of people who do a lot of writing courses and all that sort of stuff. A lot of online stuff. You would not believe how many people want to be a writer and they don't A, read, or B, write.
Yeah.
People want to have written, they don't want to be the writer. And if you want to write comics, you've got to read them. You can't just go, well, I've read Sandman, therefore I will write my own 400-part epic. You've got to read everything and read outside your chosen genre as well. I mean, if you want to write superhero stories, fine, read all the superhero stories and get on, but read everything else too.
Yeah.
Because if you only stick to one genre as you're reading, you'll never learn anything new. You'll end up writing the same stories over and over. You've got to stretch yourself and allow yourself the time to read as well. Sometimes I get this, and I've been doing this a long time, but I still get it, where if I'm reading, I feel guilty for not writing.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself, no, this is part of the process. So read and write, but talking ain't doing. You can't talk about the book you're going to do until it's done, because otherwise you're not talking about a book you've got, you're talking about a daydream. So that applies to comics, of course, as well. Talking ain't doing. You've got to apply the seat of the pants to the seat of the chair, apply the fingers to the keyboard, and just write it and shut up about it until it's done as well. That's the other thing. If you tell the story to someone else before you write it, that ticks a little box in your head that goes, yep, that story's told, and then you won't feel like writing it. So you've got to, work it out in your head and then tell it to the page, and then you can tell other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so
actually, I don't think we can end it on a better note. Before we finish up, are you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any websites to plug?
Yeah, my own website, michaelowencarroll.com. And from there,
down in the description, everyone.
Oh, thank you. And that'll link to everything. Can we talk about the things that are down in the description? Because we haven't done it yet. Because we're recording this now, but people will be reading this in the future. Hello.
Oh my God.
To the future.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah. Is it? Oh no.
We are the future.
This is a meta 5. That's how many it is.
Oh my God.
More than that.
It turns out I've been you and you've been me the whole time. I just take
What if we watch this? Can we give ourselves advice from the future?
Oh
no,
my God.
It doesn't work that way. It only goes one way.
Daniel, knock on my door right now if you're watching this. Give him a minute.
It happened. Yeah.
He's just taking his time walking. He'll be here soon. Trust me. I can speak for myself when I say that I walk slow, so he should be here soon enough.
Excellent.
And Rusty blogs as well.
Rusty Staples, my comics blog. But again, there's links to that from from michaelowencarroll.com. So links to all of that. And and I think the most important advice I can give is buy my books.
Yeah, that's what you need. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's the key. They always say, how many Michael Carroll comics have you read?
Yeah, and the answer should be all of them. And also, my books and comics can only be read once. So if you want to read it again, you've got to buy more.
Yeah, you have to pay. You come to the door and you demand payment.
Yes, that's right.
No, what's it? They buy it, they read it, then you snatch it from them and say, it's a weird book rental service.
Exactly. It's That's
Carroll Comics.
Yeah, it's like a library, but with more applications of lead pipes to knees than anything else,
Yeah.
Making sure that people pay when they ought to.
And if it doesn't come back in prestige, is a prestige edition, then condition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They should come back better than they went out.
You have to give them a little polish. Take them, go clean the pages, make sure it's all okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're
okay.
Oh, you're back there. And so, are you on Twitter yet, Michael Carroll? Facebook as well?
Yeah, Twitter, Michael Carroll. I've got an Instagram thing, but I don't use it much. I don't know what to do with it. It's too hard, and I'm too old. And I've got all other things that are there.
And so I'll actually
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook as well. That's Michael Carroll. And actually, I'll talk to you a little bit after the recording. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Michael himself said that this was the best interview he's ever done in his entire life. He said that off camera, of course. And he said I'm the greatest of all time.
Before, did I? Yeah.
And he said I'm the greatest of all time. Mind you, all this was before, of course. Go follow me on Twitter if you'd like, @SamboGizmo1. Like and subscribe. Go donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. Of course, link for that in the description. Go check out Mike's work. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks again to Mike for joining us and letting me annoy him. I'll talk to you a little bit here. But yeah, so thank you guys. Any ending comments to the millions of people watching?
Yes, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.
And then subscribe to me as well. He also says that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching.
Subscribe to Daniel because he needs it,
I do. I actually do. So thank you guys so much for watching. I see you all in the next video.